Bye. We are very excited to tell you about a healthcare news podcast that just came out. It's called Medlines.
See what we did there? Medlines, headlines.
That's good. That's good, right? It's a weekly wrap-up of everything in our field, from breakthrough discoveries to research, politics, pop culture.
Yeah, I think the best way to think of it is kind of like NPR's Up First podcast, but for all things healthcare.
And we're excited to be a part of the team behind it, along with our partners at Human Content and our inaugural sponsor, the New England Journal of Medicine.
Yeah, we wanted there to be a podcast out there for busy healthcare professionals to stay informed on the go without taking a big chunk out of your day.
It's the episode's like 15 minutes.
Yeah, or less.
That's like the length of a cataract surgery.
Exactly.
Episodes of Medlines are out now wherever you get your podcasts, with new episodes out every Friday. Check it out. Hey, Kristin.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into the summer months.
Yeah.
All right. I want to tell you something that I've been hearing about from patients.
Okay.
So everybody's using lots of fans and air conditioning, which can lead to dry, irritated eyes.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a chance that those symptoms could be something else entirely.
Oh, I know the answer to this one.
All right, let's hear it.
It could be Demodex blepharitis.
Yes. Oh, you're learning so much about eyeballs. I love it. Actually, there was a study that showed about 60% of patients treated for dry eye also had Demodex blepharitis.
That is a lot.
And the symptoms, like itchy, red, irritated eyelids, they're similar, so it can be confusing. Ask your eye doctor to check for those little tiny collarettes on the lashes.
Oh, those crusties at the base of the eyelashes.
Exactly. And the good news is that there's a prescription eye drop available for Demodex blepharitis. To learn more about Demodex blepharitis, visit miteslovelids.com. Again, that's miteslovelids.com to learn more. This ad is brought to you by Tarsus Pharmaceuticals. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Knock Knock Eye with me, your host, Dr. Glaucomflecken. This is your one-stop shop for all things eyeball related. Thanks for joining me today. I have somewhat of a serious topic to discuss, and it relates to how women, in particular my wife, is treated on social media. In the comment section of our own podcast clips on our YouTube channel. So let me just set this. The reason I want to talk about this, it's something I've been thinking about for a while. But the tipping point was a recent clip that was posted from our episode recently with Rana Awdish. So Rana, go back and listen to that episode. It's a great episode. Rana Awdish, friend of the pod, friend in real life. We love her. She's a remarkable human being, physician, survivor of some major medical trauma. We have a shared kinship, me and Rana, over both basically dying and coming back to life in very different ways. And then she has written books about it. She came on the podcast to talk about her newest book, which you should check it out. It's fantastic. She talked about healing. That's what her book is all about. Really, it's how, her first book, In Shock, was about what happened to her. And then her second book is about how she healed from it, how she became herself again, physically, mentally, with her loved ones. It's a very intimate look into what that looks like. And Rana realized that there was healing that she needed to do that was really outside of what medicine can provide. And that medicine, hospitals, doctors, there's a very small box in the grand scheme of things with how we approach healing and what it means to heal from disease. And what Rana found was that she needed something else. And that something else can look different for everybody. For her, it was artistic expression, healing through artistry, through painting, that helped her come back to the land of the living. And this resonated with us just because of what Kristin and I have both been through. And in the clip that we put out on social media, Kristin was talking about how medicine sometimes has a God complex. How if you don't fit into the box that medicine has for you, whether it's your symptoms that you're presenting with, your experiences, trauma from your experiences, needing something that's a little bit unusual or outside the normal framework of what medicine and doctoring and hospitals can provide, that often in medicine you're shrugged off. You're cast aside. You're kind of like, okay, brushed off, just not taken seriously. This is not a new topic. Like, we hear this from a lot of people. I've heard this from from patients, even some of my own patients. Like, I've seen reviews over the years, and you try your best to do better and to make sure you're listening to the patient. But that clip, that was the point of the clip, and it gets into the kind of God complex feeling of like, well, if you don't conform to what medicine has for you, then you're wrong. And just that sentiment. She wasn't calling out individual doctors or even doctors in general, never said doctors, just medicine. The whole construct of the healthcare system really feels this way about patients. And it can leave people feeling lost, feeling hurt, and alienated from healthcare. And that's what she was talking about. And there were some angry responses. And so let's talk about those responses, because we can take criticism. If you disagree with something I say or something Kristin says or a joke I say on the internet, I've had so many negative comments about me. I once had a doctor, like, it was a med school professor, like, do an entire lesson on ethical dilemmas in which I was the example of what not to do. Like I can take criticism. I do it all the time. So does Kristin. Like, you can't be a woman on the internet in whatever respect you're a physician or not physician and not see misogynistic comments. Like, it's just a part of it. But I'm tired of it. I don't like seeing it. So there's two things I will not tolerate. One is comments about her appearance, just misogynistic comments in general, just about her being a woman and needing to step aside and let the man talk, like all these awful comments. No, I'm not going to tolerate that. That's not okay. And I realize the vast majority of people watching this episode right now, watching me, you don't do this, all right? And I appreciate you for being respectful in the comments. But if I see those types of comments, you're going to get blocked. You're going to get, the comments are deleted. We try to honestly just ignore them, because sometimes when you call attention to it, it makes it so much worse. And you just want to, like, just get them out of there, because that's not a normal human thing to do. But it gets to a point where I got to say something. And it's not just this one clip that we post on social media, right? There have been comments over the years, and Kristin's never said anything. Not once. But I see them. And I take offense to it. That is my wife. That is my business partner. You think Glaucomflecken's just me? No, think again. There's no way I could do all this stuff. You think I'm that smart and organized? No. She is just as much a part of Glaucomflecken as I am. If not because of all the podcasting and everything we do, but the fact that I was making videos in residence, I was making jokes on social media as Glaucomflecken, making videos in residency and in my job. While when I was doing that, she'd pick up the slack. You know, she'd do all the other things to keep the house. Like, this is teamwork. We pick each other up. We help each other out. This is not just my thing. It's her thing. So any of the comments talking about how, like, she's riding my coattails, which I've seen those too, abjectly false. None of this would be what it is without her. I take great offense to those types of comments. Certainly the misogynistic things, just get the fuck out. Like, no, you don't belong here. You don't belong in the Glaucomflecken ecosystem. So leave. The other thing I will not tolerate is people downplaying, disregarding, shrugging off, casting aside her experience. Her experience matters. She is not a physician. She's not a healthcare professional, but she is a spouse to a doctor who she met when she was 21 years old. We've been together through college, med school, residency, job as a physician, job as a content creator, pissing off companies, insurance companies. She's been through it all with me, right by my side. We've done it together. She has that experience. She knows what medicine does to doctors. She's seen it firsthand, the challenges. She's also been a patient. When she did chest compressions on me 5 years ago now, she had just had a neck surgery. She's been a patient. And she's also the spouse of somebody who's had 3 very serious health issues. Cancer when I was in med school, cancer when I was in residency, and a cardiac arrest. And we call her a co-survivor because she is a co-survivor. She survived that with me. And that's, I've heard over the years people say, how dare Kristin interject herself into my trauma? How dare she make it about her? But what those people don't realize, and they should, because we talk about it a lot, is that medical trauma, it doesn't just affect the patient. It doesn't. Not by a long shot. When I tell people to learn CPR, I'm always saying it, like, we should be teaching in school, and all that's true. Like, everybody should learn how to do CPR, hands-only CPR. But we don't think about how traumatic it is to actually do chest compressions. We take that for granted. Now, not really me. It's been a while since I've done it as an ophthalmologist, but in general, it's just something you might have to do someday. But people who are not in healthcare, who are often, when they have to be thrown into a chest compression situation, it's usually a loved one. That's the first time they're doing that. That's traumatic. That is not a trivial thing that we ask people to do. She did that. She woke up in the middle of the night and I was dead. I was gray. My heart was not beating. She had to figure out in the dead of night how to save my life, having never done it before. And she did it. Against all odds, I had a 10% chance of survival that night. And she made sure I was in that 10%. But it's traumatic. Trauma that we're still facing today. And this is trauma. These are things that, and getting back to our conversation with Rana, there are so many things, parts of that, our recovery together through this, that are not uncovered or talked about or seen in an exam room or in the hospital. They are conversations. They are emotions that are private, that are between us, that are between our kids, our parents, our family, our friends, that doesn't make it into the healthcare system. All of that is traumatic, and it's all healing. It's all recovery. And so for people to tell her that she is not a part of that Kristin is not, step aside, don't try to make the cardiac arrest about you, woman. Fuck that. No. That's not okay. She is just a part of it, as I am. So I'm not going to tolerate people downplaying her experience. And it's not even just, it goes so far beyond saving my life. If you want to understand why she might feel like medicine can easily cast you aside if you don't fit inside a box, if you don't, that medicine might have a God complex to just kind of disregard you at times if you don't do exactly what they want you to do. Instead of getting mad at that person, at Kristin, maybe try to think and understand, why would this person be saying this? Why would this person, who's a spouse to a physician, who has known and been around the healthcare system her whole life, whose grandfather, by the way, was an OBGYN, who grew up revering doctors, putting them up on a pedestal. Why would she feel that way? Why would all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, why would she come to a conclusion that, medicine kind of has a God complex? They have a problem with uh, you know, understanding patients and their experiences and what healing, what trauma really is. Why would she think that? Could it be because when she got to the hospital after doing 10 minutes of chest compressions, she was told at the front door that the only reason she could come into the hospital, this is May of 2020, the only reason she could come into the hospital was because her husband was an end-of-life case? You think maybe news which was which she did not previously know? She was not under the impression that I was an end-of-life case. She thought I was alive, and all of a sudden they're telling her that. That's the only reason she can come into the hospital. You think maybe that colors her perception of the healthcare system? How about when they allowed her to come into the hospital, but put her in radiology, away from everybody, including her support system, which was a phone. Radiology department, lead-lined walls, no signal whatsoever. She could not make a phone call. And then when she tried to leave the radiology department to go find cell reception to make a phone call, she was told she had to leave because she was making people nervous. You think maybe that colors someone's perception of medicine, of the healthcare system? How about when she kept calling to try to get updates from the ICU because she wasn't allowed to be in the hospital because of COVID? And so she would call a couple times a day, and she got yelled at by one of the doctors. Why are you calling so much? I'll let you know whenever we have an update. You think maybe that has something to do with how she feels about the healthcare system? Or the fact that between the treatment I received for my cancer diagnoses, from the cardiac arrest, from just being by my side for all of those experiences and taking care of me when I'm recovering from a orchiectomy or a second orchiectomy, taking the brunt of the child rearing whenever I'm recovering from these things, and everything else, as like doing laundry, like just all the things to keep a house and a family running while I'm trying to get over cancer or cardiac arrest. During all of that, the only person who ever asked her how she was doing was my ICU nurse. 12 years of medical issues. Only person who showed an interest in her and her well-being was my ICU nurse, Roger. One of my favorite people in this world. Do you think that might affect someone's feeling about the healthcare system? So think about those, and by the way, we've talked about all of those experiences on this podcast. So and I'm talking to physicians, before you come with pitchforks at my wife, all right, for saying medicine has a God complex, just think about why someone might think that. Go listen to that episode. Listen to the whole damn thing. And I think you'll understand why she said those things. And you can disagree with our statements. If we have a take about something, you're free to disagree with us. That's fine. All right, but if you're not respectful, if you make disparaging remarks about Kristin, or if you disregard her lived experience, not only are you on my naughty list, but you're also perpetuating every single negative thing that she might say or think about the healthcare system. Like you're just feeding into that. So don't do that. That's where the empathy comes in. And by the way, Kristin, she is a fierce supporter of physicians, of me, of the healthcare system. That's why she talks about these things. Not because she just wants to shit on the healthcare system. By the way, I shit on the healthcare system all the time. No, it's because she wants people to understand this idea of co-survivorship, on what the effects of medical trauma have on family members. She's not just doing it because she wants to complain about stuff. No, she's trying to improve things. She has done real advocacy work through the American Heart Association, through other organizations, and she's giving keynotes. She's talked to large audiences about this, about paying attention to the family members, not forgetting that they're there and that all of this affects them too. Take care of the patient, absolutely. You have to do that. But just show a little recognition to the people around that person. So just think before you comment. And she's not going anywhere, guys. So those of you who might not like her on this podcast, I do not care. I don't care. I don't care for that opinion whatsoever. Because she's a big part of this. And I love her on this podcast because she brings a perspective that I don't have. She brings the perspective of somebody who is not in healthcare, who does not see patients, who is a patient herself, but who has lived alongside patients, me, and doctors. It's a really unique, important perspective. That's all I got for you today. So I want to thank you all, those of you who are respectful, and for listening and watching this podcast over the years. And we're still enjoying doing it. We like doing it together. And we're going to keep doing it. So that's it for Knock Knock Eye. Thank you all. My executive producers are Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Our editor and engineer is Jason Portizo. Our music is by Omar Benzvi. Knock Knock Eye is a human content production. I'll see you next week.
Knock, knock, goodbye.
Thanks for watching the episode. You can find more on that playlist over there. If you prefer to listen, or you just had your eyes dilated, you can binge full episodes wherever you get your podcasts, or join the party over on Patreon, where you get early access episodes, hang out with us, get lots of exclusive bonus content. Hope you subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think.